for joining us on CNN News 18. I'm joined by none other than Rajya Sabha MP and also senior advocate Mahesh Jethmalani from the BJP. Mahesh sir, thanks a lot for your time. The Women's Reservation Bill has passed and it has made history in the new Parliament building. But there are a lot of questions surrounding the implementation of the Women's Reservation and why it's not going to be possible before 2024. And a question that has been raised by opposition leaders as well. Mahesh Jethmalani gave a brief but succinct speech in Parliament on why that is not possible. So I want to take with you forward those points you made on the floor of the House and some more questions. So Mahesh Jethmalani, first up, you mentioned in Parliament that there are three procedures that have to be completed before any new reservation comes into effect. Could you take us through why the reservation could not be implemented from 2024 onwards?
No, you mean why it could not be done before 2024?
Yes.
Why it could not be done before 2024? Yeah. Look, as I said, that's the first question. Why it could not be done before 2024, right? There are three steps in any reservation demarcation, right? The first is the census, right? If there's a impending census, right? You can do it on the basis of an existing census, right? But in view of the fact that we have a census starting in 2024, and really our territorial constituencies are frozen on the basis of a population of 1971, which is 55 crores, and we've already gone to 1.4 billion, right? And that estimate actually, if you look at our legislation, it was that 1.4 billion target was estimated to be in 2026, right? But we've already reached it by 2023. So the first step is census, right? Now you may do it on an existing census, you may not do it, right? Secondly, after census, Article 82 mandates that after every census, there will be a delimitation, and which means a readjustment of territorial constituencies, right? Because population has increased, right? You go and you try and get constituencies to be as equal in population to each other as possible. So because that has happened, you have a delimitation exercise and readjust your territorial constituencies. That's stage number 2. Stage number 3 is in case of special reservations, right? Reservations for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, which already exist under Article 332. And you have now women's reservation, right? You then require what? An identification procedure. So there's census, which tells you population increase. There's a delimitation, which is territorial adjustments consequent upon that population increase. And third is identification for special purposes, like reservations for special classes, SCs, STs, women. Now, right? So these are the three things which you normally would expect. Now, given the fact, practically, first let's go to the practical view and let's make this commonsensical. We want this to work. We don't want carping opposition members finding a reason to oppose just for opposition. They're searching for reasons. I can't believe it. I thought they should be embracing this enthusiastically. I can understand if they say the constitutional bar, but now they're scraping the barrel to find something wrong with this. Now let me tell you, right? You can do it before 2024. You can get rid of the first two steps. You can say we will go by the 1971 census, which is the existing census. Actually, that is as per Article 82. But in 2002 itself, within 6 months, the basis of the census changed. You went even for parliamentary constituency within 6 months. This is only a permissive, it's not a prohibitive article, right? So in 2002 itself, you already went for the 2001 census, which had taken place by then. You mandated that. So the parliamentary constituency exercise thereafter was on the basis of a 2001 census. Karnataka, which went to 2008, which was the first census after that, first state which went, were all on the basis of the 2001 census. But let us assume you want to go on the 71 census or the 2001 census, right? Now, in any event, why would you want to do that when population has exploded twofold? Right? So you want now to bring it up to date with the existing population. Now you will get that in 2024, right? in 2024, the exercise is all digitalized. It's not like people have to go, census officers have to go to door anymore. By now, it is digitalized. Although COVID set us back, we made up that time by making sure that it's digitalized so that we can get it going. Right now, 23 is over, 24 is going to start. Hopefully, with the digitalization of procedure, that is, you and me don't have to get door-to-door visits. Online forms will be signed, right? So that can be quickly done in 2024. Now, in 2024, you can get rid of census. You can go by the old census. You can get rid, therefore, of the readjustment and go by the territorial boundaries that exist. But you still need the identification process.
Right.
Now, how are these processes identified? Which seats will go for women? Only 1/3. You have to identify those 1/3, right? Now there's going to be a competition. Every sitting MP, every party is interested in saying, no, not this constituency, right? Who decides that? That's the job of the Election Commission. That's stage 3. Now, that stage can't be dispensed with because you have to an identification procedure. That procedure takes long. Why? Because the Election Commission, because it's a quasi-judicial function, right? You have to hear all the parties. You first set out proposals. You publish them. Then you publish a date when you will consider all counter proposals from stakeholders. You will call them. You will set a date. And then those people will come and be heard. Evidence can be led. This commission has the power for the determination of constituencies to see which is the most appropriate constituency for women. Right? Maybe
and would there be
would
there be a criteria for that on how to identify the most appropriate seats for women?
That's the Election Commission. I'll give you one thing. Someone there's a bad law and order situation, right? It's unsafe for women, whatever it is, right? Let's exclude that. I'm just giving you one example out of the top of my head. Right? So basically speaking, this one step cannot be dispensed with, and it will take time. Because you have to hear so many parties and people, even independent candidates may say, why my constituency? Apart from the fact that, it's practically an unfair situation. Where are we today? We are in 24. Now, people have been nursing their existing constituencies, or some people have been nursing who have not been elected, who have lost, right? They're nursing those. There are many people, incumbent candidates and aspiring candidates, who have nursed constituencies for 4 years, right? 4.5 years. The elections are 6 months away. Actually, you have to notify this in February. The next election has to be notified in February, March, right? So how much time do you have left? Nothing.
Okay. So you're saying that even if we were to do away with the requirement of the census and the delimitation, as the opposition parties are asking for, there was no way to bypass this third step, and that third step would have taken longer than we have right now, ahead of the next general elections. But this is where the question then comes, Mr. Jethmalani, and you can put on your...
Just 1 minute. Just one last point, and then I'll listen to your next question. If you wanted to do this third step, right, there'll be heartburn. That's what I said in Parliament. Supposing we take out Vayanad, right? Rahul Gandhi is going to complain. We take out some parliamentary constituency in West Bengal, the TMC is going to complain. Why this? They have to be heard. And there's a final procedure which after everybody's heard, you've done natural justice, right? There's finality to it. But the process of natural justice has to be gone through. And people can give reasons why not my constituency. Please don't touch my constituency. Right?
Right. And we didn't have enough time to complete that process. But this is where the other question comes in. This is where the other question comes in, which is that your government has been in power for 9.5 years. Why did you think of this bill only now, which left you with no time to implement it before 2024?
I'll tell you that, right? And I made that statement in Parliament too. I answered that. I first said, why not 2014? Why not our first term? I said, what did you all do in your tenure of 10 years, UPA, for instance? Right? You did nothing. We did all the women's social justice, financial access, dignity issues. We had to first give them that. Political representation is a final step in empowering women. They had done zero. And I pointed out, were you not stirred by the shame of open defecation? What do they did they even think about it? They had no sensitivity. That's what I kept telling them. So between 2014 to 2019, we first had to empower them socially and economically and
Hmm.
dignity. We give them a sense of dignity.
Hmm.
We are the ones who have provided women a real sense of dignity today, which the Congress was totally immune to. They didn't even think about it. So 2014,
Hmm.
2019, there's been a panoply of programs that have come out. A vast, I mean, the welfare programs for women are astounding by themselves. And we're not
Hmm.
talking about only urban women. We reached out to the poorest of the poor. We want to
Hmm.
empower all women. Sabka Saath is part of the slogan. It's no empty slogan. Garibi Hatao was an empty slogan for Congress. For us, this is not an empty slogan.
Hmm.
That is why, to empower the very poorest of women, we needed all these steps. Then comes a slightly more luxurious aspect of political empowerment, which
Political
is
representatives.
through
Okay.
representation. Which is
Now, Mahesh Jethmalani, you're a lawyer as well, so I want to understand this from you. There are some members of the Congress party and independent commentators who have talked about the fact that actually Article 82, which was amended in 2001, brought in a clause by which the first census after 2026 is the one that will be the basis of a delimitation exercise. So according to them, delimitation cannot happen on the basis of 2026 census. It will have to wait till 2031 census. And by that time, it will be too late to even apply the women's reservation for even 2034. So they are contending that actually it will be implemented only by 2039. How do you respond to that? First of all, the issue of the Article 82 that they've brought.
Shivani, you know, one of the people who've done this is Yogendra Yadav. With the greatest respect to him, he should stick to his strength of psephology, which also has not turned out to be pretty accurate, and stay away from law or take some legal advice.
Hmm.
Look, 82's opening line says that it is mandatory. It's a condition that every time you have a census, right, you must have. That's the main part of 82 article, right?
Hmm.
Every time you have a census, you must have a readjustment.
Hmm.
All that this says is, right, up till 2026, and this was really meant, from what I can understand, was to stabilize populations.
Hmm.
It was done so that, because after the 75 emergency, that whole population thing became some various measures which were less drastic and more humane than what took place. The compulsory sterilization during the 1975 this thing, right?
Hmm.
They needed time to roll out, right? But we've reached that target which they had in mind
Hmm.
already, of 1.4 billion. That's point number one. But the article only says this, that it won't be necessary, right, to have a readjustment after every census, a
Hmm.
territorial readjustment after census, as the main part of the article prescribes, right,
Okay.
until 2026. It is
Okay.
permissive, not prohibitive. It doesn't say you can't do it. I mean,
Okay.
just now,
Hmm.
when you had the northeastern states, right?
Hmm.
You had a delimitation commission to
Hmm.
when you had elections in the northeastern states, right? You
Hmm.
had a delimitation commission. This was
There's one exercise going on right now.
yeah, but no, and for Jammu and Kashmir,
Hmm.
you had a delimitation commission, and these delimitation commissions, incidentally, have to be headed by a former chief justice of the Supreme Court, headed by
Hmm.
Justice Rajya Desai. The delimitation which has been challenged in the Supreme Court, and not on this ground, by the way, 84,
Hmm.
done by the Delimitation Commission of 2020. Now, if you couldn't have a delimitation commission at all, how did this 2020
Hmm.
commission come about? It is because
Okay.
that proviso which you are talking about says it is not necessary. You don't have to do
Okay.
it after, you don't have to mandate. It is not compulsory to do it after. But this time, in this situation, you are having a special reservation for women. So you have to do it.
Okay. No, what they contend is the first census after 2026 is to be
Yes.
the basis of the delimitation, not the 2026 census.
Yes.
You see, is that
No, that's not permissible.
okay?
That is not even a possible reading of the article. The
Okay.
article only says it is not permissible to do it till it is not necessary to do it. The word is, it is not necessary to have
Okay.
until the first census of 2026. Then it becomes mandatory again.
Okay.
Right now, it's
So it's a
optional.
completely different reading of the article, in that sense.
With respect, it's a poor and shallow reading of the article.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm telling
So
you, it's motivated to put some little, eggshells in the path of what the Modi government has done.
So you are saying there is no such bar. Actually, the women's reservation can become a reality before 2029 general elections. In fact, in your speech in Parliament, you said that by 2026 state elections, it can actually become a reality.
Yes. I mean, yes, it can be, and that's the part where I believe the Modi Sarkar can do it better than anybody else. Now, these people are raising constitutional bars for and it's supposing it is their concern. Let me take that ridiculous construction of Article 82 with respect to whoever said it, right? Let me assume that that's the right construction. They can remove that impediment anytime by a constitution when they're ready.
Right.
What's the big deal?
Right. So even that constitutional hurdle
can also
can be removed.
Of course,
yes,
they can be overruled. Practical hurdles can't be removed of time, right? And the only why didn't you bring in the first tenure? We didn't want all it. Supposing I just said I didn't want to bring it, I wanted to bring my second tenure. But I've given you a reason. The first tenure we were busy doing what you didn't do, what you should have done. You forgot your mandate, and now you're taking it on us to bring it in our second term. And we were delayed because of COVID. We couldn't do it.
Right. So can I also come to the other big question of the OBC reservation? Now, I know, and we have, of course, discussed this during the last 1 week or so, that OBC reservation is not allowed as far as parliamentary seats are concerned, unlike SC/ST reservation. So there is no constitutional provision to provide for OBC reservation within the women's reservation. Yet it seems to be a big demand of political parties. Is there any way to bring in the OBC reservation now? What would that process entail, and then make it a reality and within women's seats as well?
You are now, let me just tell you this. Every time in the past, particularly during the Congress attempt, they brought in the Rajya Sabha in 2010, right? 4 years they had for the rest of their parliamentary tenure. 2014, every time it was the OBC demand. So Congress puts forward the bill and then uses its allies, right, to torpedo it on the ground of OBC reservation, OBC. And without its allies, they won't push the bill. So it's cosmetic. It's fake. Congress efforts are fake. They don't have effort. They say this is our effort. No. This is no effort at all. You are pretenders. You are fake. Fact of the matter is only the Modi government which has put its mouth and the bill on the table. Nobody else has done it, right? And we got it passed in both houses. In my Rajya Sabha, private, I can tell you with great pride, 214-0. A matter of great pride. So these are little pinpricks to cater to an OBC constituency. Now, look at this, right? You want to deny it? Are you saying deny representation? Do you want women's representation or no? You want women's reservations or no? Then why bring in obstruction now? We'll deal with OBC. The Constitution is very clear. Article 15(3) says you can make nothing in this Constitution, right? Or nothing in the Article 15 will prevent the state from taking, the word is any provision for women and children. So why are you, it's a standalone provision. It's a standalone option of the government for women. The government of the day. We don't have to mess around with anything else and mix it up and say quotas within quotas or whatever they're trying to do. They have, in the past, derailed this bill, which they themselves brought, right, by using their allies to torpedo it. This is a mischievous thing. Beware of these fake peddlers of women's rights, I'm telling you.
Well, the reality is that today, at least, the opposition parties have come together to vote for it. So, barring those two votes that didn't go for the bill in Lok Sabha, which, we can, I think we all have some suspicions of who that party or those individuals could be. Barring that, everybody has voted in favor of it, despite it not having the OBC quota. But I want to...
Where credit is due, Shivani, I praise the opposition for ultimately... In spite of all their carping and all their criticism and all their wailing and all their whining, they supported the bill.
They did support it, exactly. And it was virtually unanimous in both houses. But I
Yes,
do
yes.
want to understand
Hats off to
the
them.
OBC issue from you. What will it take for an OBC quota to be a reality? Do you think it can ever be a reality? And if, let's say, a normal OBC quota was to come into play, like an ST/ST quota, then we can think of carving out an OBC women quota as well. But is this a demand that is being raised just because of
No.
political compulsions, or do you think it can ever be a reality? Does the Constitution provide for
What
this?
you are really saying is you're taking the system into a proportional representation system and not a first past the post
Yeah,
system, right? Because
yeah.
you're saying every community should have
A
a
certain
percentage,
representation,
yeah, according to its, you know,
population.
yeah, according to its population or some ratio of that population, right?
Hmm.
Then the smallest minority will have nothing,
Hmm.
and then it all depends. Then why not women give women 50%?
Exactly.
And you'll have to reduce the OBC.
Hmm.
The OBC is the maximum of 50% as per Supreme Court decisions.
Hmm.
In fact, as far as parliamentary seats are concerned, there is no representation mandated by the Constitution. Social and educational backward, what does that mean? It means that the Constitution framers said that socially and educationally backward people, which we call the OBCs, right, in
Hmm.
common parlance, right, are socially and educationally backward, but not politically backward.
Hmm.
So, therefore, they require steps for employment in government. They require equality of opportunity in education and jobs
Hmm.
by the state. But
Those reservations exist.
only the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, political
Hmm.
representation under
Okay.
Article 330 and 332. Right? So they
So
felt that
you're so
yes,
you are saying, one, it is dangerous to ask for this OBC representation, because where are we going to stop then? Because then it will become a political representation will have to be a mirror of the population matrix, and
and
that is not ideal situation.
you will keep fragmenting India more and more. Then within the OBC, somebody will say, no, no, you give us, this OBC is so much percentage. By the what are you trying
Mhm.
to do? You're trying to make this some kind of a snakes and ladder game. Pull me down, pull me up.
But what I want to understand from you as a lawyer are in states, for example, in certain local bodies or urban body elections, when states try to carve out OBC seats, some of those decisions were struck down by courts. I believe in Madhya Pradesh, they allowed it because it stood the triple test. So, are OBC quotas something that could happen in the future? Do you think constitutionally they can be provided for?
Yeah, you'll have to make a constitutional amendment. There'll have to be a constitutional amendment. Whether it'll stand the test of constitutionality, I don't know, but it can only be done
Okay.
through a constitutional amendment.
Okay. The other thing is that while a lot of the political parties are raising the question of why not 2024 and will it even be 2029, the big question the public is also asking Mahesh Jethmalani is, why don't political parties voluntarily give 33% of their tickets to women candidates starting from 2024? Wouldn't that be a great example to set?
But you see, that's the whole point. Just two answers to that. One is that it will not guarantee women's
Hmm.
representation. Right?
Hmm.
We want to. The idea of reservation is to give somebody a step up the ladder, a
Sure.
helping hand, right? By making political reservations, irrespective of party wants or likes, right? A woman will be represented in every one of 33% of the constituency.
Hmm.
By my party putting women, you might not get that number.
Hmm.
The only
Right.
way to get the only way to guarantee 33% is by by having separate constituencies for women. Only
Yes, I
women.
get your point. I get your point. Then in the final figures of parliament, we will have 33% women elected representatives. But my point is that while the political parties your opposition parties are crying about the fact that it is not getting implemented in 2024, another way to push it before we get to 2029 is to just give more tickets to women
Yes,
candidates.
yes, I'm all for it. Yes, I'm all for it. I mean, some of the best parliamentarians in both houses are women. No question about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
there's absolutely no doubt. I mean, there are hundreds of women who are much better parliamentarians than I am, for instance. So I mean, they're not 100, unfortunately. They're I think about 75, but all of them
Yeah.
infinitely. better place than I am. So I would
Yeah.
happily say that. Yeah. So
All those
no,
parties, but who are asking for reservations for women to kick in from 2024. My point is that they could maybe show their political willingness by from this election by actually giving more 33% of the tickets to women, because nobody's stopping you. In fact, OBC women question also. In fact, Sonia Gandhi herself had said in 2010 that nobody's stopping you from giving those tickets to OBC women. You
yeah.
don't necessarily need a law if you believe so strongly in it.
You see, I'll tell you one thing. What is how this works out, according to me, right? That you first get the electorate.
Hmm.
I mean, look, even women really haven't been very vocal or active, barring a
Hmm.
very few select women, about getting reservation. Uh, in,
Hmm.
a, in some seminar in this thing I said in Delhi, right? I
Hmm.
actually said that, why do you wait? Why there's a bill which was there in the Rajya Sabha in 2010. Why don't you
Hmm.
introduce that bill again? Have the women
Hmm.
should be pressing every MP in every constituency press for that bill, right?
Hmm.
But it took Modi to do it. Ultimately, women didn't do it. The Modi government picked it up.
Hmm.
I said, what are you women doing? Why don't you try and put pressure on your MPs and your government to bring this bill in?
Yeah.
What have you got? Nothing to lose but your chains.
Hmm.
So it's happened now, right? And the idea is, right, as people get used to women in power and see how successful they are, we see it in parliament, right? The
Hmm.
electorate must see it now. So
Yes. On a larger
33%,
scale.
first opportunity to showcase.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is a
All right.
showcase. This is a showcase opportunity.
Absolutely. Let's hope it kicks in as soon as 2026, which you have said that it can happen for states at least
It can.
by 2026, and by the time it is the next general elections in 2029. All right. With
मोदी
that,
है तो
my
ही मुमकिन है.
all right. Mahesh Jethmalani, thanks a lot for speaking to us. All the very best. Once again, thanks a
Thank,
lot for your time.
thank you, Shivani. Thank you so much.
Thank you.